It was Toronto Maple Leafs dressing room cleanout day Monday after another round one loss. Mitch Marner asked about staying in Toronto long term.
That'd be a goal. I've expressed my love for this place, this city. Obviously, I've grown up here, so we'll start thinking about that now and trying to figure something out.
What does it mean to you to be a Maple Leaf?
It means the world. Obviously, we're looked upon as kind of gods here, to be honest, and something that you really appreciate, and the love that you get here from this fan base and this attention is kind of none like any other.
To what level of expectation do you have that you will get a chance to see this through next season or have another kick at it?
So, I'm in the coaching business, and when you're in the coaching business, you don't get to make decisions about your position. So for me, it's out of my control. I accept responsibility for not meeting results. I believe in myself greatly. I love coaching the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now more than ever, I believe in myself and our team, and that I will win and our team will win.
I don't want to stand here and try to tell you that we're on the doorstep of anything, because we're sitting here today doing this. How close are we? I don't know. We'll see. It feels both attainable and a ways away.
Got really, really sick after game 2, and playing game 3, obviously just kind of going through that. Still kind of trying to recover. Going into game 4, took a weird hit, and couldn't go any longer. And that's as detailed as I'm going to get into it. I mean, obviously it was tough. It was really frustrating. It sucks and was killing me to watch.
All right, so much to dig into here. It's Harvey's Hot Takes with our friend Bryan Hayes. First of all, Bryan, let's get into the Mitchell Marner comments. We're looked upon like gods here. He'd like to sign an extension. If you're Brad Treliving, are you even entertaining that possibility?
I'm not. No, if I'm playing the role of Brad Treliving, I'm not. And I would guess, even if Brad Treliving wanted to do that, he certainly couldn't entertain it publicly right now. And I couldn't imagine, even if they got to a point on July 1st, Jay, where they worked out some sort of detail on a long-term deal, my guess would be they probably have to put it in a shelf and wait a while, because Mitch Marner is radioactive in the market right now. There's so many people that are pouncing on him because of the way he played, and also because of his last contract negotiation, which he was entitled to ask for whatever he want, but the Leafs gave him the world. He asked for the world, the Leafs gave him the world, and I think most Leaf fans right now would suggest he has not repaid that. So, no, as playing the role of Brad Treliving, I think you got to move off Mitch Marner. And I think, unfortunately for him, it's a numbers game. They've committed to Matthews. They've committed to Nylander. So the core 4 has to change. John Tavares is probably going to play his final year out and leave anyway. But if you're building a team and you're dealing with a salary cap, you cannot allocate this much money, huge amounts of money, to 3 skilled forwards, right? The proof is in the pudding. It's been a long time where these guys have been making a lot of money. You just simply can't do it. So again, they've committed to Matthews, they've committed to Nylander, so Marner's the odd man out. And again, from his perspective, because of how much money he's making, because he won that last negotiation in a knockout over the team, he's making $10.9 million. He's been overpaid for 5 years, in my opinion. That's where the contract negotiation is going to start. He's in his prime. He's going to ask for even more money, and I just don't think that makes sense. So I think it's time to move off Mitch Marner. I think it sucks for him as a local guy. He came in with so much promise. He's been a great Leaf, but the team has to come first. It can't be about the core 4 or the Mitch Marner story. It's got to be about the Maple Leafs, and at this point, I think drastic changes need to happen, and I think Mitch Marner is going to be a part of that.
We heard Austin Matthews defend Mitch Marner on Monday, saying that fans were looking for a scapegoat. I thought maybe the most interesting comments we heard, Bryan, just there were Morgan Riley kind of admitting, yeah, we're on the doorstep, but we also could be a long ways away. Essentially, he's saying nothing, but somehow that's interesting because everything else everyone says is the same thing year after year after year. How unsatisfied should this fan base feel after listening to these players speak on Monday?
Well, I think as you just said, Jay, it's year after year. So definitely unsatisfied, but also numb to this, right? I think a lot of people are just tuning it out because it's really the same story every year. And you're right, Morgan Riley, by admitting, I guess, you're actually not that close to doing anything. The fact that he was willing to go there makes it sound explosive, but he's just saying the truth. He's just speaking to reality. They've won one round in 20 years. Morgan Riley's been here for 11 years. He's been in the second round once. That lasted 5 games. Like, this idea that they're that close is simply delusional. Like, close to what? The third round, maybe? I mean, they are nowhere close to winning a Stanley Cup. I think Morgan Riley knows that. I have to believe the players know that. I'm not surprised they're coming to the defense of their teammate, their friend. I understand their backs are going to be up against the wall. But the idea of pursuing this idea that the media is being too tough, or the media always plays the same game and there's a scapegoat and they're running people out of town, to me is ridiculous. And Matthews and Nylander, they went in there with the idea that they were going to protect their guy, Mitch Marner. But I think it would have been in their best interest to not just protect him, but take some of the heat onto yourself. Instead of saying, well, it's the media and scapegoats and narratives, why didn't Austin Matthews and William Nylander say, I could have been better? And forget just Mitch, we all could have been better. Instead, they start going at the media, which to me just falls on deaf ears. And in reality, Leaf fans, its actions are going to speak louder than words. Whatever they were to say today, Jay, was not going to make up for the fact that they're speaking as opposed to playing. They should be in Florida playing tonight. They're not. They're cleaning out their locker room. It's the same song and dance basically every year. I think most Leaf fans are just sick of it, and they don't really want to hear it anymore.
I thought Sheldon Keefe was pretty bold in a lot of the things that he said. He's a confident guy, and I appreciate that. But it's so bizarre, Bryan, that he has to speak on Monday without having a clue what his future is. He says he believes in himself. Do you believe in Sheldon Keefe?
I believe he's a good coach. I believe he's a really good regular season coach. I don't know if he's a great playoff coach, and the playoff results would speak to that. Right? He even said it today. This is the results business. And the fact of the matter is the power play went 1 for 22, right? The neutral zone got clogged up, and the team just couldn't break through that. Sheldon Keefe admitted to that post-game on Saturday night. The team no-showed Game 1 and Game 4. That's in large part on Sheldon Keefe and the players naturally. So I like Sheldon Keefe as a guy, as a coach, as a regular season coach. But I think he's one of the examples, like Marner, maybe like Tavares, among others, that need to represent a fresh start. I think he knows what's coming, right? Shades of Dwayne Casey with the Raptors years ago. It's awkward that he has to go out there and speak, but he's a big boy. He knows that. He's still employed. He's got 2 years left on his deal. He's going to make a lot of money, and I believe he'll be a coach again somewhere else in the NHL. But I think change is likely coming, and I think it's needed. Again, I think you need to turn the page here on this Maple Leaf era. Shanahan's been here for 10 years. Keefe has been here for 5. Riley, Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, they've been here for a long time. And it's represented great regular seasons and futile playoffs performances and just simply not getting it done. I think they need to close the window on that era and open a new window, and it needs to be a fresh start. I think the fans are demanding it because you have a combination of apathy, agony, anger within the fan base. You simply don't have optimism anymore. You don't have positivity. There is not any believers out there. Even the most optimistic Leaf fan, they understand it can't happen. The core four, it's not going to happen. The core four with Riley and Keefe, it's not going to happen. The Shanahan plan didn't work in terms of pursuing a Stanley Cup champion. Maybe Shanahan sticks around. We'll see. But this current incarnation of the Maple Leafs has got to come to an end. And I think Sheldon Keefe will represent that among some of the players and possibly some other personnel moves in the future. So, yeah, I think it's time to turn that page, bring in a new voice, and have a different feel around this team.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, Bryan, because, the players and the coach speak on Monday, and then the management team was supposed to speak on Thursday. We weren't exactly sure who was going to speak Thursday, but that was the original idea. Now, late Monday afternoon, the team announces that, in fact, the management team will speak on Friday morning, and it will be Brendan Shanahan, the team president, Brad Treliving, the GM, and new Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment president and CEO and former president of TSN, Keefe Pelly. So Keith is going to be there representing, and I love it because he's an amazing guy. But does this mean to you, Bryan, that at the very least, the management team will be staying in place for Toronto going into next season?
It would certainly suggest that, Jay. It would absolutely suggest that, because they will have 6 days to make a decision on what they wanted to do with the president, with the GM, and Keefe Pelly would make that call. And the idea of him stepping up to the podium with Treliving and with Shanahan would suggest to me that he's analyzed everything. Maybe they've sold him on a plan moving forward, and he's willing to buy into it. I do find it very curious that Pelly will be up there, because to my knowledge, he hasn't done any press conferences, and I think there might be a Raptor reporter that sneaks in, right? Can I have a word with you, Keith, on what we're doing with the Raptors here? What about Toronto FC? Where else do we go in the Argos? You know, because Pelly obviously represents Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, but that is ultimately the guy that I want to hear from, because Pelly's the new man on the scene. He's running the whole operation. Like I said, and everyone knows this, Shanahan's been here for 10 years, and he's done a lot of really good things. And when he got here, he did amazing things. I think reigniting the history of the team, bringing Dave Keon back in, establishing Legends Row, retiring the numbers, what they did with the 100th anniversary season. All of that was class across the board, and that was Shanahan. Him getting Babcock, him obviously bottoming out. They won the lottery. They got Matthews. Bring in Marner, bring in Nylander. There were a lot of great things that happened. But at the end of the day, he's been here for a decade, and in pro sports, it's not always that deep. What have you done in a decade? They've won one playoff round. So if Shanahan's back, I think that's very significant, because he's been so committed to the core four. He's been so committed to Matthews, Nylander, Marner, Tavares, throw Riley in there, and being a believer they will get it done. That regular season success will eventually translate to playoff success. If he's back, Shanahan that is, that opens the door to them running it back. That opens the door to maybe Marner returning, maybe Keefe returning. Everything's on the table because it's deja vu. Shanahan was here a year ago, 2 years ago, when they blew a 3-1 lead against Montreal, and he kept being patient and kept going back to the well. So I am fascinated with what happens on Friday. I want to hear from Pelly. I want to hear the plan from Pelly. And if Shanahan's sticking around, he has got to convince this fan base that he has the answers, because he's been here for 10 years, and a lot of what's happened has fallen on his desk, right? A lot of these decisions, the major decisions, have gone through him. So if he's sticking around and he's got a plan, he better sit up there for 45 minutes to an hour and break it all down, because every Leaf fan wants to know, what are you going to do to get this team over the top?